Hi, this is Nate, and I wanted to just give a quick update from our Sundai Hack Day yesterday. The goal was to build a Security Audit MCP server, and we used Roo Code, which used to be called Klein, and it runs in VS Code. And basically, I gave it one prompt. I said that I wanted an MCP server that I could query to conduct a series of different security audits on my code base. And this is what it came up with. It put together this plan with an architecture overview. So if we take a quick look at this, this is the MCP server that it built. And then there's basically four components. There's a static analysis module that looks at JavaScript or TypeScript, scans the code, identifies any security issues. There's a Python scanner, and there's a Java scanner. Then there's a dynamic testing module, which scans the web application. It looks at the API for any security vulnerabilities, and then there's a network scanner. Then there's a dependency scanner module for NPM, PyPy, and Maven. And then lastly, there's a compliance checker module that looks at the OWASP top 10 security issues, the SAST best practices, and security misconfigurations. So that was the goal, was to build that. We got through basically this first static analysis module. We did a little bit of the dependency scanner module. So what I want to do is show you this static analysis module piece, which we got working shortly after the demos. So here we have the MCP settings JSON file. So this is where we've configured the MCP server. It's living in this directory called Security Audit Server. So it's in this directory under source. Actually, it's under the build. And then it's this file right here. So that's the one that actually gets executed when we call the MCP server. And you can see we've already got the MCP server running right here. And what we're going to be doing is basically checking for vulnerabilities in this JavaScript file. So there's basically 4 different security flaws in this file. Okay, so let's give it this task. And here we're explicitly telling it to use the Security Audit MCP server to conduct the static analysis. If you don't tell it to use the MCP server, sometimes it'll just use Claude or OpenAI or whatever your LLM is. But I want to override that default behavior and tell it to use my MCP server that I just created. So I'm going to go down here. Actually, I grabbed the wrong to grab that part. Okay. Okay, so it just wants to make sure that it's actually running, and it sees that it is actually running, and it now wants to start it. Okay, so you can see down here, Security Audit MCP server connected, and it's restarting it. So this is the scan code security command that we're sending to the MCP server, and these are the arguments it's passing in. So it's passing in the path to the JavaScript file. This could be an entire directory or the root of your project. I'm just telling it to do a scan of this one file, but I could do an entire tree of files. I'm telling it that I want to look at JavaScript code. This could be TypeScript, this could be Python, this could be Java, and then scan depth deep. This would be if there were more than one file, but right now it's just one file, so it's probably going to ignore that. So if I approve this this command, it's now calling the MCP server, and it returns a response. It says that it found 5 vulnerabilities. They're all high, and this is the resource where I can get more details. So basically, when it runs the scan, it saves the results in a JSON file with a unique identifier. So if we go here and we go into scan results, this is the most recent scan. You can see it's just a JSON with with the different vulnerabilities that it found. And if we go back here, we can now make another call to the MCP server and say we want to have all the vulnerabilities returned. So if I approve this command, now it's basically the MCP server is reading this JSON and returning it. So that's basically what it does right now. And just to show you that it actually did what we expected it to do on the back end, I can pop over to this log file here, and I believe this is where we issued the starting static code analysis, language JavaScript, and you can see that it used something called ESLint, and it spun up a Docker container with this image, node 16 Alpine, and then it proceeded to run this ESLint command with a bunch of plugins like the security plugin, and then it got some JSON output which it extracted, and then it mapped those, and this is basically what it found. It found these 5 vulnerabilities and it saved it to that file. So that's the basic functionality right now. The presentation, it leaves something to be desired. You can see that it is, Claude is then giving us a little nicer summary. Instead of this JSON, it's giving us a summary of what it found, what line the error was in, a little bit more information about what the vulnerability is, how you can fix it. So this is pretty useful. What we could do in the future is give a more detailed report where you could actually make these hyperlinks where you could click on the file in question and it would take you right to it, and maybe even suggest a change, something that would fix the security issue. We're also working on getting the Python static testing working. That's going to be using something called Bandit. So maybe in the next video, I can give a demonstration of that. All right, that's it.